Chelsea is one of the biggest clubs in the world today. And even though they've been the butt of many jokes over the past couple of years, not a lot of Blues fans would be too bothered by it. They're the only English team, apart from that of Klopp or Pep's, to have lifted the Champions League trophy in the past decade. After recently making their 11th signing of this window, there is widespread speculation about a lack of vision or plan. Under Todd Boehly, Chelsea has managed to spend over €1 billion in transfers in just 2 years, somehow maneuvering past the FFP rules supposedly laid down to ensure something like this doesn't happen. To make matters worse, Chelsea finished 12th in the 2022-23 season and haven't won any silverware under the current ownership. This matters because surely you shouldn't be able to afford exorbitant transfer amounts without corresponding revenue coming in from prize money. The finance experts at the club have figured out a workaround for the sustainability rules by handing out long-term contracts. But apart from the financial irresponsibility, the other ramification is the complete lack of chemistry in the team. Buying South American wonder kids by the truckload works well in Football Manager, but in reality, these signings need to be very carefully nurtured and integrated into the setup, especially at a top club. We've only mentioned the negatives till now. Of course, there are a fair few positives to look at as well, but today we are focusing on the Chelsea we knew before this, the Roman Abramovich era, the original big money club of the Premier League. Let's dig in. In 2003, Chelsea Football Club faced debts totaling nearly €120 million. This prompted the owner, Ken Bates, to put it up for sale to get rid of the overbearing debt. But one man's overbearing debt is another man's pocket change. This is where Roman Abramovich came in and took over the London club with a clear vision to make it one of the best in the world. The Russian oligarch made sweeping changes in terms of upgrading the training facilities and the stadium itself. He changed the sport forever with the seemingly unlimited transfer budget every single year. No player in the world was off limits for Roman Abramovich, and the addition of Jose Mourinho in 2004 made up a deadly duo. Mourinho would ready his wish list of the players he would like to add to the squad, and Roman Abramovich would make it happen without hesitation. In the first season that Abramovich took over, Claudio Ranieri was the Chelsea manager. With a 100 mil transfer budget boost, the likes of Makelele, Crespo and Veron were bought. Chelsea finished second in the Premier League behind Wenger's Arsenal and was knocked out in the semi-finals of the Champions League courtesy of AS Monaco. Jose Mourinho took the European title with Porto that year. Mourinho became the hottest talent in the managerial market at the time. Roman Abramovich wasted no time and immediately brought him to Chelsea in 2004 with a salary package that could fill every other manager in the world with envy. The arrival of Roman Abramovich had a huge impact on English football for many reasons. Apart from the finances and money can fix anything attitude, Abramovich's arrival had a cultural impact on the previously local boy making a big setup turning into a buy the best talent available on the market approach. Abramovich reportedly took a helicopter ride over London in his early days of taking over Chelsea and just pointed out huge parks where he would want a new training ground to be built for his club. This even got him at odds with the Queen at the time. But eventually, that's how the Cobham training ground was built. It was started in 2004 and included state-of-the-art facilities for the period. Before Abramovich took over the Blues, there was only one Premier League club that wasn't owned by a Brit, Fulham. Unsurprisingly, before Abramovich's €120 million splurge in his first transfer window, the record for the highest net spend in the Premier League prior was held by Fulham, amounting to €35 million. Around the time Roman Abramovich took over, Arsenal were reaching great heights and vying with Manchester United for success year after year. They started building the Emirates Stadium then to incorporate the success they anticipated would follow over many years. They could only fund the expansion plans after consistently winning big. The arrival of Chelsea as a potential contender at the top without so-called hard work or success didn't sit very well with Arsenal. After the first few transfer windows under Abramovich, it became clear that a new stadium for Arsenal wouldn't bear much weightage in this new world order set by the oligarch. They couldn't even come fractionally close to what he was spending year after year. After managing to buy the best infrastructure, best players, best coaching staff, and the best manager, of course, success would follow. Chelsea won their first Premier League title in 2004-05, followed by a second one during the very next season in 05-06. During these campaigns, Abramovich invested heavily in every transfer window. Chelsea broke transfer record after record. They missed out on a title hat-trick in Mourinho's last season in charge in 2006-07. Apart from the title victories, they also won 2 League Cups and an FA Cup. The prestigious Champions League would elude Abramovich in these initial years. But the message was clear. There was a new top dog in town, and his conspicuous sources of funding seemed to come from a bottomless pit. Chelsea reached their first Champions League final in 2008, but ended the 2007-08 campaign trophyless after finishing second in the Premier League. The following season saw World Cup winning manager Luis Felipe Scolari arrive at the helm. He only managed to stick on till February 2009, when Chelsea were in a disappointing 4th place. Gus Hiddink replaced him and bagged an FA Cup trophy and finished 3rd by the end of the season. Abramovich was now getting a reputation. Everyone knew he was crazy for silverware and wanted to see Chelsea at the top. But it was his uncompromising standards and the quick hire and fire managerial approach that felt like a relatively modern twist. He wanted to redefine success at the club, and according to him, coming in second was a failure. It's frightening to imagine how Chelsea's reign over the past 2 decades might have looked like if only Roman Abramovich was a bit more patient. Today, every club in the world wants to get someone reliable into the managerial role and build a project to sustain success in the long term. The Russian owner provided every possible tool to whoever the manager at Chelsea was, except for familiarity and security. These 2 tools have since been identified as crucial factors for football managers to help establish their identity on the squad. Roman's reign was undeniably the most successful era in the club's history, but the question pops up whether it could have been a bit more than that. Wouldn't Abramovich have loved to see the club become self-reliant on success rather than depending on investments every summer? The sackings of Carlo Ancelotti and Jose Mourinho the first time around felt premature. They felt rushed and panicked, as if a lapse in achieving perfection was being punished by starting over from scratch. It's just scary to imagine what a Wenger or Sir Alex-like managerial reign might have looked like at Chelsea with the resources at their disposal. Maybe they could have preceded this current Manchester City dominance we've witnessed over the past decade, if only Roman Abramovich was just a bit more patient with the manager. In 2009, Carlo Ancelotti came to Chelsea and won the Premier League and FA Cup domestic double. His second season in charge saw no trophies and Chelsea finishing second in the league. Roman Abramovich decided to sack him, and in came Andre Villas-Boas from a highly successful stint with Porto. But this proved to be one of the worst appointments for Abramovich, and he was also sacked in March 2012 with a points per match total of 1.75. This was the lowest in the Abramovich era till then. His assistant, Di Matteo, was given the interim role to finish the season. That's when Chelsea won their first Champions League title in iconic fashion. Di Matteo was made permanent at the start of the next season and was promptly sacked months later for the very reason he was hailed in the first place. Chelsea were knocked out of the Champions League in the group stage. Rafa Benitez then came in and led them to their first Europa League title that season. Benitez was replaced by the Special One after serving Chelsea for 7 months. With Mourinho came another title as Chelsea won the 2014-15 Premier League along with the League Cup. After the following season went trophyless, there were reports of tiffs between Abramovich and Mourinho, and he was sacked for a second time in December 2015. That turned out to be Chelsea's worst finish under Abramovich as they came 10th in the league. The next season, in the 2016-17 campaign, Antonio Conte was hired and he led them to another Premier League title, Chelsea's as well as Abramovich's 5th. The next season brought an FA Cup, but Conte was sacked for missing out on the top 4 spots. Another Italian took his place in the form of Maurizio Sarri. He was only in charge for the 2018-19 season and took them to a Europa League title and a 3rd place finish when the Klopp-Guardiola rivalry had kicked off fully. The hiring of club legend Frank Lampard seemed to bring in new promise of a long-term project, but even after a €200 million transfer window in 2020, Lampard, who was appointed to rival Klopp and Guardiola, found himself chilling in 9th by January 2021. He was subsequently replaced by Thomas Tuchel, who led Chelsea to their 2nd Champions League title within just 6 months in charge. He even managed to drag them to a 4th place finish in the league. The 2021-22 season saw them lift the Club World Cup for the first time along with the UEFA Super Cup. The Russia-Ukraine conflict forced Abramovich to put his beloved club up for sale in 2022. Todd Boehly was the fortunate buyer and seemed to come in with a similar approach in the transfer market to that of Roman's. But since he's now taken over, it just feels like someone's superficial idea of how Abramovich ran the club is now running the club. Boehly is spending big in the transfer market, but the immersion of these talents seems missing on the pitch. It feels like a lot of decisions are made in haste and out of an "I want to play with that toy and no one else can" mentality, rather than a calculated approach. The new age of football needs all-around development, and it values systems and sustainability over just raw talent. Todd Boehly seems adamant about investing in rising stars, but the next step of developing these stars seems amiss. Enzo Maresca will hope to breathe fresh air with the Blues, and hopefully we get to see another exciting team soon. By the way, here's a link to our analysis of how Enzo Maresca could save Chelsea and give them a new identity through his ways. The Roman Abramovich era is over, and there is no doubt he led Chelsea to their most enjoyable era in club history. The source of most of his funding and investments was often criticized for their unethical inception, but the Chelsea after him seems far more dazed and confused than it ever was through the manager merry-go-round situation under Abramovich. It remains to be seen whether Chelsea can find success over the upcoming seasons at the same rate as Abramovich's era, but it seems unlikely, at least for now. But to the Chelsea fans, I ask you, what do you think? Will you see success anytime soon like you did in the previous era? Additionally, do you think Abramovich could have maybe left an even bigger legacy by sticking with a long-term manager? Or was his secret ingredient to success to always keep the manager's seat under pressure? Let us know in the comments below.